Hi, I'm Cameron McIntyre. I'm a professor of biomedical engineering and neurosurgery at Duke University. I was a reasonably good athlete as a kid, and my whole life revolved around sports, and that's what I cared about. I did well in school, good enough to go to college, but it was, at that point, I kind of was introduced to the whole concept of how math and science can be used in combination with engineering techniques and technologies to address clinically relevant research questions and maybe even develop clinically relevant technology. That was, just extremely captivating to me, and it was pretty clear I was not going to be an NBA basketball player, so I better find something to do to, have a job. I went to undergrad college at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio. It's a great university for biomedical engineering. And they also had a really strong emphasis on clinical, kind of applications of biomedical engineering technologies. And within that realm, they had a very strong focus in what today we call neuroengineering. So that was primarily related to, implantable devices that put electrodes into the nervous system to then stimulate the nervous system to create, behavioral function. So you can use that to treat diseases or to restore function or whatever. From my sophomore, junior, and senior years in college, I, volunteered in a research laboratory that was working on human brain and spinal cord stimulation. And then that allowed me to start working towards a PhD after I kind of had that undergraduate research training. Deep brain stimulation is relatively common implantable brain stimulation device, primarily used for the treatment of Parkinson's disease, so advanced late stage Parkinson's disease. And these are devices that are analogous to cardiac pacemakers, except the electrodes are implanted in the brain. There are a couple very specific target locations in the brain that are used for the treatment of Parkinson's disease. So one of them is called the subthalamic nucleus. It's very small, almost like an almond-shaped nucleus deep inside your brain, hence the words deep brain stimulation. And these devices have been in use for, almost 30 years now as, kind of an accepted clinical strategy to treat the disease. And over the last, let's say, 10 years, these devices have started to become a lot more technologically advanced. We have new kinds of electrodes. We have systems that can stimulate and record at the same time. And so we're getting all kinds of new, interesting data to help customize stimulation to the individual patient. I didn't really get exposure to the clinical side of things until I was really at the end of my PhD training. I mean, I had seen the application of the technology that I was using, on patients and on human subjects. But what I hadn't really seen or really appreciated was the interaction between the clinician, the neurologist or the neurosurgeon, and the technology, right? I'd only seen the end product of the technology on the patient. And as an engineer, you kind of take maybe for granted that, well, if I've designed a cool thing, then the user should just be able to use it. In reality, what I noticed once, kind of I had that exposure of, the real clinical interaction with the devices, you realize that, well, they actually hadn't had all the same training I had as an engineer to learn how the devices function or what the pieces of the devices actually are. And that there was a real interesting opportunity there to, think about ways that not just how to make the devices better, but how to make the devices, more useful to the clinical users of the device that treat the patient. I love everything about it. And we're working on trying to understand the brain. That's a little broad, but you're trying to understand how do individual neurons in the brain work together to create disease, or how do they work together to create, the beautiful things that the brain can do. It's really amazing. I mean, I'm 47 years old now, and I still love learning as much as I did when I was 20 years old. It's so much fun to learn a new thing. And it doesn't always have to be about the brain. I can learn new things, about how a computer works, or about how an electrical circuit is designed, or, how an electrode, might function. So you can learn cool neuroscience things, and you can learn cool engineering things. And so I really love that about my job, is that I kind of feel like it's a little bit of both. And I love how those two worlds come together. The big goal that at least I always feel like I'm working towards is like, I want to see these kinds of brain stimulation or brain neuromodulation technologies. I want to see them work. I want to feel like I had an influence in making those technologies, really useful for patients that have, these terribly unfortunate neurological disorders. And you're never going to be able to make their lives back to the way it was before they had their disease, but you can make people's lives better with these kinds of technologies. And man, that's such a wonderful thing to feel like you have had a contribution to seeing that happen. When you develop technology, there's usually an end goal, help the patient. But then there are, kind of these steps that you have to get over of, the users of the technology being able to use it as efficiently and as effectively as possible. And that was sort of the opportunity that our group really recognized in the area of deep brain stimulation, was that these devices that would be implanted, they're pretty complicated devices, and and the clinicians that are using them they're very smart people, but they're not necessarily electrical engineers or computer scientists, and so you have to customize the stimulation to the individual patient. And this is a very time-consuming process, and it takes a lot of clinical training and expertise to be able to do it with robust, high-quality outcomes. And so we thought, well, you know what we could do? We could use things like brain imaging data and biophysical computational models and put that into a software package that the clinicians would be able to use to help them adjust the stimulation, to customize it to the individual patient. So that was the premise of the company. And then we developed a prototype of, what that would look like. And then we did some clinical testing of, this prototype. First, we had this little tiny startup company. And then that little tiny startup company got acquired by a big giant company that makes these kinds of deep brain stimulation devices. And then they went on to make a full product, around that package. For the last 5-6 years, we've been developing these neurosurgical planning tools. There's a lot of three-dimensional information that you have to use, the imaging data from the patient and, all their detailed neuroanatomy. And usually they're, implanting electrodes, in several different places. And it starts to become very complicated thinking about, you have to find a safe way to get the electrode to the right part of the brain. You've got to avoid all the blood vessels. You've got to make sure the different electrodes don't run into each other. I mean, there's lots of things you have to keep out of. I don't do the real thing, but what I can do is help them do their thing. And so one of the ideas that when the kind of world of augmented reality and holographic visualization really started coming to bear, we thought that's a great opportunity for that technology, virtual reality or augmented reality or holographic visualization, these tools are great tools, I think, to help the neurosurgeons. And so we started building, software technologies that work on these things. And now there are they call them head-mounted displays. So things like Microsoft HoloLens or Magic Leap One, and they're these, devices that you can wear, and you can have this feeling of seeing things in true 3 dimensions. It's really quite cool. And when you put, real patient data into that, you can start to visualize all the details about their specific neuroanatomy and where to put the electrodes in their specific brain. And so we've been working on developing that kind of tool and testing it with our neurosurgeon collaborators and really starting to, kind of use these tools now to help customize these brain stimulation therapies to the patients. And it's been so much fun. I'm very optimistic. I really truly believe that we'll start to understand the fundamental functions of, how brains work, right? At the cellular level, at the microcircuit level, at the large, kind of brain network level. And that will then open up the opportunities for us to, really, I think, improve the treatment of neurological disorders, but also just, understand so much more about, where do thoughts come from and how does the brain control everything in your body? And to me, that is so exciting and that is so fun. And like I said, I'm not so sure we'll figure it out in my lifetime, but maybe in your lifetime. And that's going to be a pretty great transition, I think, in human history. I just feel like that will be a really great opportunity for kind of humanity to have a completely different perspective on what it is and how it actually has come to be. I like both of them. They're very different, in my opinion, or in my experience. The point of academia is the pursuit of knowledge and the development of, novel ideas. And there's nothing in the world to me that's more fun than, working on those two big, kind of topics. But big ideas don't actually help people. They're just ideas. And industry, then, they get all the fun stuff, like we created something that is tangible and that can be used. That work is a little bit more tedious and it's a little bit more painful, because there's all these steps and every step has to be taken in a certain way and everything has to be documented to the extreme. And so it's a different kind of world. The payoff is different, but yeah, that's the only way you get to something that's real out there in the real world and real people benefiting from it. So you have to have both. I have a laboratory that is full of, graduate students and postdoctoral fellows. We all have a common space. Mostly it's, our group of people kind of sitting around at our desks all day working on our little computer models. At this point in my career, I don't spend much time doing my own coding anymore or building my own models. Right now, I spend most of my time writing research papers or writing research grant proposals. People come in and ask me questions and I try and give them a good answer, and then they leave and someone else comes in and, I try and give them some good answers. And then spend most of my day just at my computer writing. And it sounds pretty boring. And I guess in many ways it is pretty boring. But it's, you got a lot of stuff going on up in your head that's fun. And that's what makes it fun. Right now, we do these surgical planning things with, these holographic visualization tools, which kind of breaks up the day. It's like, okay, we're going to do, this patient that's over in Los Angeles, and the neurosurgeon that works with them, we're gonna do their surgical plan today. This is going to be fun, and it is fun. So you kind of break up the day a little bit. The field needs lots of new young engineers. I think, the most important things that people can do are find an area that you have interest and passion for and really start to learn as much as you can about that particular area. And then once you actually have some base knowledge, try and find some people that you can work with that are already, either experts or hoping to become experts in that area too. And those experiences will give you new ideas of, things that you either didn't even know existed before, or, reinforcing that this thing, whatever it was, is like the thing that you need to work on, and the skill that you need to develop to become valuable to, to that particular area of research or that particular kind of technology development. And once you have a skill, that someone thinks is valuable, then that's how you can become attractive to, a research laboratory or to a company or to whoever that might be able to give you another opportunity.